I think it's been safe to say that the last couple of months in tech have been super boring. And it's just, with the current state of events, everything that's going on in the world, it really makes sense. Tech just isn't on the priority list for most people. But for someone who runs a tech YouTube channel, it's been difficult for me because, that's more or less what I do all day. I look at new tech, I think about tech, and the last 4 months, I just haven't been able to get my hands on anything new. The lockdown and everything has affected me in the way that I just haven't been able to pick anything new up. There's no deliveries. So it's been a challenge for me to understand, just think about what new content to make. I've been feeling limited, and I started to rack my brain up and think, what can I do now that I can't just get a new phone and start making videos on that. I have to work with what I have with me. And that got me thinking about the time I used my Galaxy S10 last year as my main device. That was the first time I ever switched over my entire phone, my SIM card, everything, to an Android phone. And I decided that was a great experiment and I should do that again. And then I thought, yes, the phone that I actually haven't been able to do this with, and I should have, is the Google Pixel 4. So ever since it came out in October, I haven't used that as my main phone. I just have been using it as my secondary phone alongside my iPhone and never really gave this a chance. So this, I think, was the perfect time to do it. And with the way things are, I really don't have to go out, so I don't have to worry about the battery dying on me midday when I'm out of the house away from a charger. So I think it was the perfect time to give the Pixel 4 a shot as my main phone. So that's what I did, moved everything over, put my SIM card in, and started using it. And for the most part, I think that the experience has been good for me. I enjoy it, and I'm going to be sad when I move away from it in the next day or two. But the one thing that I was worried about was definitely the one thing that really hindered the experience the most, and that is the battery life. So I religiously documented my battery usage. The usage and everything, I have screenshots on Twitter of every single day. And what I learned from all that data is that I was getting about 50% of the battery that I would get on my 11 Pro Max. And that's a big issue because I really want my battery to last me through the day. And the 11 Pro Max could do that, but the Pixel 4 can't even get me through half of the day without needing a charge, and that's super annoying. So it gets you about 4 to 5 hours of screen on time, and that's with very mild usage. This is not heavy apps, it's not intensive apps, this is just Twitter, Reddit, web browsing, music, listening to music, stuff like that. Nothing that's too intense, I'm not doing anything processor intensive, and the battery would still be the most I would get in terms of screen on time, just 4 to 5 hours on a single charge, lots of times with only 3-ish hours of screen on time as well. So if I used intensive apps, I have no doubt in my mind that this number would have been way lower, and it just is not a phone that's for power users. It's not for somebody who wants good battery life. If that's even a simple priority of yours, this phone is straight off the table. Maybe the XL might make sense, but the 4, don't even bother. But that's not the reason I bought the Pixel 4. I really bought the Pixel 4 because of its size. I have a liking towards smaller, not really, it's not small, but a more medium-sized, more comfortable-sized phone. And the Pixel 4 absolutely nails that. That is a fantastic phone when it comes to size. It feels so good in the hand. It's very easy to use single-handed. There's so much to like about it in terms of, the comfort, ergonomics. It's just weighted really well. It's balanced. The design on the back, the matte glass with the more, rough edges on the side. It's not slippery at all. It's super easy to maintain. I haven't cleaned that thing in months, and it still looks absolutely brand new. It looks fresh. There's nothing wrong with it. It just, the way that they've designed this phone is really good in terms of the exterior design, the way it looks. Now, other design elements, not so much, but I'll talk about that later. The one thing I do wish it was different on this phone on the outside is that I wish that the power button and the volume buttons were not on the same side, they were on the other side, so I could take screenshots and things single-handedly a little bit easier. Now, I have to switch my hands over. I have to either switch to my left hand to take a screenshot or use two hands to take a screenshot. It's just not a one-handed, because I am right-handed, so it's a little bit harder for me. I do have to make that into a two-handed affair when it's not the case on most other phones. So, the design, as I was saying, it's a very generic design, right? It looks very simple, and I actually love that about it. I love clean, plain designs, and this one is, I think, the best looking Android phone on the market right now. In my opinion, there's nothing that looks cleaner and neater than this. It's perfect. I don't like the black version because of the glossy finish on the back, but the white and orange ones I think look fantastic, and I would recommend, this design is what I want to see on more phones. This is definitely something that I liked about this phone. And this is without a doubt the best looking Pixel phone that Google has ever made. Every other phone before this, I had some issue with design-wise, but this one I think the design they've nailed 100%. Let's move on and talk about the thing that Google is the most focused on with their product right now, and that is the camera. That has been their selling point since the first Pixel. They've said that the camera is the best on the market, and that is not the case anymore. I mean, it really never was the case when it came to all-around photography, but for still photos, for portrait photos, the Pixel has always been at the very top of that game, and right now, that's not enough in my opinion. The photos look great, but the video is just horrible. Now that I've been able to use it as a more personal, taking videos of things I generally do, a lot of things I take are inside my house, and the lighting inside my house isn't always the best. You don't have so much light. So the lower lighting situations when it comes to video is horrible. The video out of this phone looks like a $200 cheap Android phone would look, and I'm not happy about that at all. Photos look great, but the caveat with the photos as well is that if you're taking photos in quick succession, if you take a bunch of photos, within a short span, what happens is that the phone starts to overheat very fast. It starts to get hot. The CPU starts to throttle, and then between the photos you take, you have to wait a couple of seconds. So the shutter button will just gray out, and it'll make you wait until the last photo gets processed. And while this might not sound like too big of a deal, it starts off with being just a second or a half second of the screen being grayed out, but then what happens is, as you keep taking photos, it gets longer and longer, and it's taken me up to sometimes from 5 to 10 seconds for me to be able to take the next photo. So when you're taking a lot of photos of a group, or when you're outside, when you're at a new place, when you're trying to take a lot of photos, that is not good. And anybody that's used a Pixel will know this, but it's horrible. No other phone has issues like this. I don't know why the Pixels, it's just the processing, the way they do it it's super intensive, I know, but it just locks up the phone completely, and it will overheat the phone so bad and destroy the battery that it's just, it's something you have to keep in mind. So photography, while it's good, I think that, you could get better options. And, that's just further cemented by the fact that there's no wide angle lens on this phone. It's $800 new, $900 for the XL. You should have wide angle. I don't think there's any excuse for not having it. I talk about this in the other video, so I'm not going to go into it too much. Another thing that's super annoying is that I noticed now is that this does have a telephoto lens, but there's no toggle to use the telephoto lens. What you've just got to do is open the camera app, pinch to zoom, and hope that the telephoto is being used. You're not sure if the telephoto is really being used or not. Every other phone will have a 1x or 2x toggle to switch between the two lenses, and I have no idea why Google didn't do that. Why even bother with a telephoto lens if you're not going to easily allow people to use it? It just baffles my mind as to why Google wouldn't do that. With the facial unlock, it's pretty fast. I'm not going to lie, that's good. But it has this weird limitation where you have to be looking at it, where you have to be quite on center to have the device unlocked. So if it is, say, like this, not angled towards me, like this, straight like this, the phone won't unlock. You have to have it angled towards you for it to unlock. Now, while it sounds kind of weird, use an iPhone and then use this, and you'll realize there's certain angles where you're just used to the phone unlocking. Maybe when it's on your desk, maybe when you're in the car, stuff like that, where you have the phone docked or sitting in a certain place. On iPhones, they unlock. Even if it's like this, Facial ID will pick up my face and unlock. But with the Pixel, it doesn't, and it makes no sense to me as to why it doesn't. It's not too far away. It's still within the realm. I don't know why it has to be kind of, at a very on-center angle with my face for it to unlock. It should not be that limiting, in my opinion. So moving on, let me talk about something a little bit more positive. Not too much, but a little bit more, and that is performance. This time around, performance is way better than the Pixel 3. The Pixel 3 was horrible. It started slowing down very quickly in just a matter of a couple of months after the phone being launched. Having very little RAM didn't help that phone, and this time around they fixed it. Not fixed it, but it is satisfactory. I haven't noticed issues like I did with the Pixel 3. So performance-wise, it performed exactly as advertised. I haven't had any issues whatsoever. Now, that being said, as I said, the phone likes to overheat a lot. So just doing basic multitasking like listening to music and browsing WhatsApp or browsing through Twitter, it will get the phone warm. And I don't know if that's a symptom of poor cooling or just, something that's not optimized right. It just doesn't make sense to me because I've used other phones with the 855 chipset and they don't overheat like this. This is the only one that does. So it tells me that this is definitely something that's related to this phone and not towards the chipset itself. So there's something going on there, and this phone just likes to get warm really fast. And as I said, this is very aggressive to throttle as well. So not the best when it comes to extended usage on more intense apps. And as I'm talking about apps and optimization, I think that this is a very clear one, is that Android is not known for its optimization, especially on a lot of apps. They just don't do as good of a job. The biggest example has to be the social media apps, right? Just use Instagram on an iPhone and use it on an Android. It's a big jump. It's just not even close to what you'd want it to be. I'm not a big fan of the way they've done it, and just the quality of images. Look at a story posted from an iPhone, look at a story posted from an Android. It just looks different, man. I've looked at this so many times, and after a certain point, I just got tired of using Instagram on this phone because it's not optimized. It just doesn't feel as smooth. The quality is lowered, and it just doesn't feel right. Twitter didn't have the same issue, but I did notice on different apps and stuff, that the feature set is limited compared to the iOS version of apps. There's certain things you can do on those that you can't do on this, and it's just a limiting factor after limiting factor on a lot of apps. And that's kind of obvious because developers they focus on iPhone more for some reason, and the quality of the app usage and the app experience really speaks for itself there. And I think that's a big thing that people should look at more when they buy a phone. App experience, what that's going to be like. It's not easy to advertise that. It's not easy to explain that. That can only be experienced when you've used the phone for a little bit more than a few minutes at a store where it's on display. You just have to have that phone in your hand for a couple of days to realize how different experiences are within the apps across these two different platforms. So one thing I will say though is that the notification experience this time around on Android was actually a lot better. So the last time I was using Android on the Galaxy S10, I was very annoyed with the notifications and how they worked. So I don't know what changed here. I'm guessing that Android does apps. I'm guessing that Android, the Google launcher does notifications differently than One UI, because One UI notifications were a big headache for me. Things kept getting hidden. There was no order to the chaos, whereas I have never been annoyed by the notifications on the Pixel, and I didn't notice this until I started using this one as my primary phone. It made a lot more sense to me, and now I understand why people like Android notifications so much more. And I get it now. So the notifications on the Pixel have been a lot better than on One UI. It's just something I noticed. I don't know if this has been noticed by other people as well, but yes, notification experience was pretty good. So, just on the long lines of the notifications, there are other things that I really did enjoy about the Pixel. I love that the software features sprinkled throughout. Some of the AI they use is so impressive. Predicting some of the text. Predictive text is really good on this phone. I think it's the best I've ever used. They know exactly what I'm trying to do. Smart things, just little things like having the now playing, listening for what music is playing around me and showing it to me on the screen is so cool, because a lot of times you're listening to the radio or you're out and about and you hear a song and you're like, man, what is this song? I love it. And you look at your phone, boom, right there, you see it, the song is playing. So a lot of nice features spread throughout. The design, the size is perfect. And overall, there is good things about this phone, but there are some things I missed as well, and I think I just like to point them out. Number one has to be AirDrop. Being able to move things across from my computer to my phone to computer without thinking too much. It was so easy. Now, even if I have to, copy a link from my computer to my iPad or my phone to my iPad or my phone to my computer, it's a lot more of a added step. I have to save it in some app, and then I have to have the app downloaded on my computer as well. And, it adds steps. Whereas with Apple, it's a much simpler solution. It's all built in, and I really did miss that. Another thing that I did notice that I was missing was being able to control music with my Apple Watch. So I listen to music. I usually put my phone down and I'm listening to music, and I'm working and moving around and about. And I just quickly change the volume with my Apple Watch. I quickly change songs with the Apple Watch, and that's something I've missed. That integration of what Apple provides, I've definitely missed that across devices, smart devices, stuff like that. The integration is definitely something that is lacking with these phones, and I think Android is definitely a few years behind on that aspect. And I definitely did miss the social media experience and, the optimized battery life that iPhones give. But overall, you know, when it comes to the Pixel 4, what I've learned right now is that this was a good phone that was poorly executed. You know, some of the ideas were brilliant, a lot of them were bad. And unfortunately, it just looked like there wasn't enough people to point out the bad ones while this was on the drawing board. Someone didn't point out that, hey, maybe we shouldn't add a very expensive Soli chip if it's not going to do much. Hey, maybe we should do this. Hey, maybe we should do that. Maybe the battery should be way bigger. You know, some things I don't understand how they missed. So it just is a big, big letdown in some ways. So, I wrote this down, so I want to read it verbatim because I think that this is important. At $800, the smaller 64GB Pixel and $900 for the larger XL, it just doesn't make any sense value-wise. You know, if this phone was $600 and $700, this would be a very different story. I would be okay with a lot of the complaints I've made earlier. But at this price point, no one should compromise. I don't think compromise is acceptable at this price point. And when it comes to it, I don't think that this phone should really be considered amongst the competition. And I think that people have recognized this as well, because look at the sales number. In the first 6 months that the Pixel was on sale, they managed to sell about 2 million units. In comparison, in Q1 of 2020, so that's a 3-month span in 2020, Apple shipped an estimated 40 million iPhones. So that's just a big delta there. And while I understand that iPhones have a lot more models within their model range, 40 million and 2 million is a big delta. And that's only 3 months. So if you look at 6 months, Apple is way, way further ahead. So it's a big gap. And I think people have understood this. Google just really needs to change its playbook here. If they want to continue existing in the market in any way, shape, or form, they have dropped the ball too many times with the Pixel 2, the Pixel 3, the Pixel 4. Every year, I think this is the year that Google is going to realize their mistakes and fix them. But no, they just keep making more and more. So we just need better priced phones, let's be honest. We need better priced phones, more thought out devices, better options for users. And if you want to copy Apple, do it in the right way, right? Apple has small batteries. That doesn't mean you should have small batteries too. Apple can get away with small batteries because they have great optimization. You don't have that. Put big batteries in so that you can last longer. Apple gets away with lower RAM. That's because of their optimization. You shouldn't copy that as well. Apple gets away with lower storage tiers because they have larger ones as well, and they try to push people towards that. You can't get away with just offering 64 and 128 on phones nowadays. That's not enough. You need to give people the option for at least 256 or 512. You know, you don't have expandable storage as well. So there's just these things that Google does not understand, and I think that people have understood it at least, and that's why they haven't sold devices. So as I say this year in and year out, I like the Pixel devices. That's why I keep buying them. I buy them every year, even though I brag on them so hard, because I have faith in them. Every time I'm hoping they do better. It's like, I know they're going to fail, but I just keep supporting. They're like my favorite sports team. You know, even if they're not so good, I show up at the game. I really want them to win, but so far they haven't been able to. And now I'm scared that the point that we're in with the markets, they might not be invited to play next year. You know, they just might not be able to make it work. If things don't turn around, I fear that the Pixel line might be dead, and that wouldn't be good either. So that's really it for this one, guys. Let me know what you think of the Google Pixel line. So what do you think about the Pixel lineup? Do you guys use Pixel phones? Would you consider it when you go out to buy one, or are you skipping over it and looking over it completely? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you haven't already, guys, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to me, subscribe to the channel actually right down there, and if you could follow me on social media. I'll post all the daily behind the link stuff, and I will also be posting all the thorough battery testing that I did on the Pixel 4. So if you want to check that out, that's all over on my Twitter as well. So that's it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any more cool video ideas I can do in quarantine, let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.